Hello and welcome to the first of CAH Talks, a brand new podcast series brought to you by Citizens Advice Haringey, where we're going to be talking to fascinating people about interesting issues that affect the people of this borough of Haringey. The first podcast is going to be on the subject of welfare benefits, specifically universal credit, winter fuel allowance and pension. I'm delighted to say that today we have Sayeed Rahman, who's the Head of Advice and Quality at Citizens Advice Haringey. Hi, Sayeed.
Hi, Daniel. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Okay, so kicking off, Sayeed, what is universal credit?
So, universal credit is actually a benefit that is means tested. Essentially, what that means is that people's income and savings will be considered before an award is provided. So, it's intended to provide different components within it to help support the average person. So you have a standard allowance, you'd have a child element, carers element, a housing element. So it's intended to combine some of the previous legacy benefits into one easily packaged system.
So you've mentioned legacy benefits. Could you tell us what legacy benefits are and how they differ from universal credit?
Yeah, so essentially the reason why they are called legacy benefits is because there are benefits from a previous period. Legacy benefits themselves, they're often individualized for specific circumstances. So you have a benefit for your housing, previously called housing benefit. You would have a benefit for if you're sick, ESA, employment and support allowance. And you'd have a benefit for if you're perhaps caring for people. It's called carers allowance. So legacy benefits are a range of benefits not necessarily administered by the same host, and quite often there's variable payment frequencies as well for those legacy benefits, and essentially the government is trying to package it in an easy way so that the administration side of it becomes easier for them to manage.
So it's fair to say that universal credit is about putting all of those benefits in the one place with one payment. Yes. You know when it's coming. Mm-hmm. It all comes as one.
Yep, that's correct.
So what's happening in Haringey at the moment if you are currently receiving those legacy benefits?
So at the moment within Haringey, what's happening is that those that are on certain legacy benefits, they are slowly being migrated. Migrated is a term that is used in the benefit context to essentially say that people have to move over onto universal credit. Those that are on certain legacy benefits will move over gradually, and there's a schedule of those that will move over, over a couple of months. Well, that's the plan anyway. Sometimes that can get extended. So essentially at the moment, what will happen is those that have been selected to be migrated over onto universal credit, they will receive a letter which will tell them that they need to claim by X date. And if they don't claim by X date, they're at risk of their benefits being stopped and any transitional protections that they may have received on universal credit will be stopped.
So you won't automatically go from your legacy benefits to universal credit. What you're saying is people will have to physically apply for the new benefit.
That's correct, yes.
So if you're a Haringey resident and you receive a letter, what steps are we recommending as Citizens Advice that you take?
So if someone does receive a migration letter, one of the first key things I would say to someone is see if they can read the letter initially, as it often gives you enough time to actually make a universal credit claim. So the first thing I'd say to people is not to panic, read the letter. And on the letter itself, there are different advice agencies that have been listed in order for clients to get help. One of those agencies is actually the Help to Claim service for DWP. The Help to Claim service, which is run by Citizens Advice. The Help to Claim service is a national line for those that are looking to make a universal credit claim. They can help people make an online claim as well as a telephone claim. So for those that actually may not be comfortable using the internet to make a claim, there is a way to make a telephone claim.
Great. Will someone get the same amount of universal credit as they currently get in terms of all their legacy benefits? Will those amounts translate from one to the other?
So that is the intention of the migration period, for people to receive something called a transitional protection under universal credit. So the theory is that they should get the same amount under universal credit as they do for their legacy benefits. So, however, there is a slight caveat there. The transitional protection doesn't last forever. And there are some exceptional circumstances whereby the transitional protection can be eroded in a few circumstances.
And if you sign up to universal credit and you receive it, do you have to give any commitments as the person receiving that benefit?
So if somebody does sign up to universal credit, it does very much depend on their circumstances. So if somebody is on legacy benefits such as child tax credits or working tax credits, they may then have to accept commitments under universal credit to look for work. And the amount of hours that they'd be expected to look for work would depend on their circumstances and their situations. If somebody is on a benefit such as ESA, Employment and Support Allowance, and they're migrated over to universal credit, they wouldn't be expected to look for jobs if they're in the support group category. So that will translate over.
And what would be the consequences if you received the letter saying that you need to migrate to UC and you simply do nothing and don't apply for UC?
So in that circumstance, what would happen is that your legacy benefits would come to an end and you'd be required to make a fresh universal credit claim after the legacy benefits have come to an end. The main problem with that scenario is that you won't receive the transitional protection that you would have if you'd claimed within the migration period. So you could be worse off by a large margin if you don't make a claim within the period.
So the message from us very clearly is read the letter, start the process, and if you need any support or advice, contact one of the advice agencies that's listed on the letter.
Yeah, that's correct. So here at Citizens Advice Haringey, we're able to have a look at the letter, explain the letter to clients as well, and direct them to the appropriate places.
So the message is very clear from us. Please read the letter. Please start the process. And if you have any concerns at all, please contact us or one of the other advice agencies listed within the letter. Thank you. Okay, so moving on. What is winter fuel allowance?
So winter fuel allowance, it's traditionally a payment that pensioners used to receive. So every pensioner used to receive a payment of differing amounts depending on your age. So that's what it's intended to do. It's called by different names, by different groups. Sometimes it can be considered to be a top-up benefit during the cold times where clients may struggle to put on the heating. And as you know, pensioners may not always have the required income to be able to heat a property adequately.
So previously, the winter fuel allowance wasn't means tested. So how much you earn or how much you had in the bank didn't affect that payment.
Correct.
So what are the changes that the new government has announced to the winter fuel allowance?
So with effect from the 16th of September 2024, a large number of people won't be entitled to winter fuel allowance because they're not on the required means tested benefits. One of those means tested benefits is pension credit. So the government did run a small campaign to encourage people to claim pension credit. However, approximately 880,000 people still aren't claiming pension credit. So without pension credit, they won't be entitled to the winter fuel allowance. There are other means tested benefits that people can get to be entitled, such as universal credit. One of the reasons why universal credit is considered is because there are rules surrounding mixed age couples where you might have one person who is pension age and the other person is below pension age, and they'd be required to claim universal credit in some circumstances. So the legislation is trying to pick out those peoples. However, the new changes can be seen to disproportionately impact certain groups more than others. So if you have someone who has come to this country and they are of pension age and they're not able to show that they're on the required benefits, they won't be entitled to claim pension credit, and as a consequence, they won't be able to get the winter fuel allowance. So just as an example, if somebody is coming to the UK from another country and they're of pension age, traditionally they would be able to get the winter fuel allowance. However, with the new changes, there are further rules surrounding who can claim means-tested benefits. And if this person can't claim pension credits because of certain immigration rules, they'll also lose out on the winter fuel allowance.
Okay. So could you just break down what is pension credit and how do you qualify for it? And how do you go about applying for it?
So pension credit is essentially a benefit to top up those that have a state pension. However, it's also available to those that don't have a state pension. So pension credit is a means-tested benefits whereby they'll look at your savings, and there are rules surrounding how much pension you can get depending on how much you have in savings. And there are rules surrounding how much of your savings is considered in the final entitlement for pension credits. There's a tariff rule applied where part of your savings can be disregarded to claim pension credits. Pension credits, as it's a means-tested benefits, is also subject to other rules, other immigration-based rules, such as the right to reside test. For those that are coming to this country, they'll need to show that they've been a qualified person within the UK. And sometimes that can be difficult for someone to do if they're a pensioner and they've come to the UK recently.
Okay, so if you qualify for pension credit, does that mean that you would automatically receive the winter fuel allowance?
So that is the idea. However, there is a qualifying period for the benefit where you have to have received pension credit within certain dates within September. So just by default, if you claim pension credit after this date, you're at risk of missing out on that year's winter fuel allowance.
So from my understanding, people who are not going to get the winter fuel allowance have been written to, telling them that they're not going to get it. If you are a pensioner in Haringey and you've received one of those letters, what should you do in terms of applying for pension credit?
So what I would suggest people to do if they have received one of those letters is there are various ways to apply for pension credits. You can apply for it on the telephone. You can apply for it online as well. We're here to help people apply for pension credits as well. And we are actually currently running a joint campaign with other pension-based organisations within Haringey to spread that news.
So again, the message very clearly from us is if you receive the letter, read the letter. If you think you are entitled to pension credits, contact Citizens Advice Haringey and we can help you begin the process of applying for pension credits.
That's correct.
If you are worried about rising energy costs this winter, as many of us are, what other sources of support are there for people who are worried about rising energy costs?
So when it comes to energy itself, it is dependent on a few factors. So those that are on prepayment meters, they may be entitled to fuel vouchers to help support them throughout the winter months. Fuel vouchers can be administered by us. We administer them through the Fuel Bank Foundation, and there is a select criteria that we have to go through for people to be awarded the fuel voucher, and that often comes with energy advice that we'd give to clients. So we would tell clients about any grants that may be available that they may be able to claim from the energy supplier themselves or other funds. We are in a position to help people compile income and expenditure sheets to be able to apply for such grants.
So what we're saying is there are sources of help. If you're worried at all about energy, rising energy costs, please reach out to us because we may be able to put you in touch with sources of support.
That's correct.
Wonderful. Sayeed, thank you very much for joining us today. And we'll be hosting further podcasts talking about other issues which affect Haringey residents.
Thank you for having me.